Now that the Habs' 2 first-round pick positions are solidified, we got some interesting news about the 29th pick from the Florida Panthers, and an interesting team above Montreal in the top 5 has revealed a bit of their draft plans, so we're going to be talking about all of that on this edition of Habs Digest. Hello, bonjour, ahoy, and welcome to today's news edition of Habs Digest. I'm your host, Josh Gosse, alongside my co-host, Jesse Poirier, and as always, a quick reminder to hit subscribe to the channel, like the video. We really appreciate your guys' support. We're flying past 5,000 subs. We love it. We're almost at 6. We hope we can get there soon. Alright, Jesse, first thing today. The Blue Jackets are guaranteeing that they're taking a center at pick 3. We'll get into this Florida stuff and whether it's good or bad for Montreal in a bit, but the first thing I wanted to talk about is the president of hockey ops, John Davidson of the Columbus Blue Jackets, on 97.1, a Columbus radio station, earlier yesterday said, "We will get a center at 3. I'm telling you right now, we will get a center." I don't know if he's using the word will twice to indicate who he might be picking, but saying for sure that they're not picking Matvei Michkov, essentially, and that takes one team ahead of Montreal out of the Matvei Michkov sweepstakes. We've been hearing some interesting rumors all around, but more and more likely, Jesse, every single day that Michkov is probably going to be there for Montreal. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's an interesting philosophy, just kind of putting your cards on the table, but I guess it's not that much of a secret, Josh. We know since the brief tenure of Pierre-Luc Dubois, which was only a couple years with the Columbus Blue Jackets, they really haven't had that top-end, sort of center. So for me, I definitely see that, but I'm actually really excited about this news, Josh, because I kind of had my ranking personally, and I feel like it's kind of starting to come to fruition. Like, obviously, Bedard first. We got Fantilli. Then after that, Columbus, who we're talking about, taking Smith. I feel like they want to take a centerman. The choice is kind of between Smith or Karlsson, but Smith has been playing a lot more center recently. Like, Karlsson is listed as a center, but over the last 2 years, he's been playing more of a wing and maybe projects to be more of a winger in the future. So if I'm Columbus, I'm the general manager, I really want to secure the best possible center that I can at that position. I would probably go with Will Smith, and I'm super happy to get Leo Karlsson as a result. I feel like San Jose will go for Michkov at 4.
Very interesting, because I think we both agree that we both had Leo Karlsson well above Will Smith in our draft rankings. For a while, Leo Karlsson is an outstanding player. Would love to see him in the Bleu, Blanc et Rouge. But yeah, I mean, it comes down again, like, this isn't really a ton of news, I suppose, because Columbus was almost certainly going to pick one of Will Smith or Leo Karlsson. But again, dropping the fact we will be picking a center, I think you're on the right track there, Jesse. And again, if Leo Karlsson or Matvei Michkov drop to Montreal, I think it's awesome news. But yeah, we'll keep you guys updated as we hear more maybe from San Jose's side. But for now, that was just an interesting tidbit as we move on to kind of the bulk of this video. And this is what I wanted to talk about a bit before we got into this, right? So what does Florida winning mean for Montreal? Well, as you saw in the thumbnail, Florida goes up. They're headed to the Eastern Conference Finals. Montreal goes down. And if you guys weren't familiar, if you didn't watch our videos talking about Montreal's draft pick, what this means for them, well, here you go. Oh my gosh, that is way blurrier than I thought it would be. But anyway, that's okay. You guys can read it well enough, right? So Montreal is now locked into, at best, the 29th overall pick. As Florida beats Toronto, they are the worst team left in the playoffs. But if you make the conference finals, your pick can be at worst 29th. So, Jesse, I kind of pose this question to you. Now that they're solidified, Montreal solidified at number 29, does this change Kent Hughes' plan at the draft? Do you think this maybe leads to less of a possibility of making some kind of big draft trade like he did last year? Because again, if Florida had won this series, or had lost this series, Montreal would be picking 17th instead.
It does, because the moral of the story is don't depend on the Toronto Maple Leafs to win a playoff series for you. So, I mean, definitely saw this one coming, but I feel like, as we talked about before, is we're looking to really capitalize on these picks as much as possible, whether it's moving up with that first selection in the first round or whether it's later on. But we know Kent Hughes, like, he comes from the world of being an agent. He loves to make deals, so I would really like to see him, possibly try to move up and kind of bundle some of our prospects to kind of maybe get more of a middling first round pick.
Every day goes by and it's like, Montreal kind of cemented their own fate with this one. I mean, if you go look, and I saw in the comments of this, and I kind of forgot this, Jesse, Florida barely made the playoffs, right? We all know that. They were the lowest seeded playoff team. They had the fewest amount of points of any playoff team. Montreal played them, 3-4 times this year? if Montreal had beaten Florida just once instead of losing every single game like they actually did this season, Montreal had just won one of those games, that Florida pick would be 13. Sure, Montreal maybe wouldn't have gotten the 5th overall. They might have gotten 6th, but would you rather 6 and 13 instead of 5 and 29? And I saw one guy say, well, I'd rather 5 and 29 and see the Leafs and Bruins lose miserably. So I want your take. Like, would you rather 5 and 29, or would you rather go into the draft lottery at the 6th position, maybe possibly slipping to 8th, and have that 17th pick? Because, I mean, this is all hindsight, but it's an interesting discussion nonetheless. So kind of what are your thoughts on that?
In a year like this, where we have so much premium talent available, I have to go for that highest selection possible, which is that 5th and that 29th. Because again, we're trying to get that, premium offensive talent. We have lots of pretty good players. Now we need that superstar. So that one pick more can really make the whole difference in your franchise's future.
Yep, you know what? I think you're right on. I think landing right at 5 is probably the best case scenario for Montreal. I mean, based on not the best case scenario, but it's one of the better cases. It's definitely not the worst case scenario. I mean, best case scenario, we don't want to talk about that. I don't want to be sad again, but yeah, very interesting. And I want to know in the comments, everyone down there below, tell me what you think. Tell us what you think, because would you rather Toronto have lost this way and Boston lose this way and Montreal's pick is much worse, or would you have rather Florida had lost and Montreal gets a better draft pick? It's a question we've asked before, but now that that series is kind of over, let us know your thoughts so that you don't have to, pretend to root for the Leafs or whatever this time around. But we'll move on to our last topic of the video today, Jesse, and I thought it was really interesting. Carey Price is acting as Samuel Montembeault's goalie coach, and that sounds so strange, right? But here's a little clip from the Montreal Gazette, not a clip, a little clipping, I guess, of text. Montembeault hasn't played in the game since April 13th, but he prepared for the World Championship by taking shots from Canadiens teammate Paul Byron at the Bell Sports Complex in Brossard, with Carey Price working with him like a goalie coach. Now, is there any better way to spend your time preparing for the World Championship than have such a, an awesome guy, an awesome, unfortunate LTI, probably retire, Paul Byron, and Carey Price helping you out? And Monty got a shutout today, or Canada got the shutout today. Monty played a lot in net, so very interesting. What are your thoughts on that? I just love that Carey Price and Paul Byron, even though they're probably done for good, they're still sticking around to help out the young guns.
It's true. It's definitely a team effort, all the way through, but with Carey, acting as the coach right now for Monty and him subsequently getting a shutout, is you have to think, is Carey Price the next goaltending coach for the Montreal Canadiens? I mean, is he the next head coach of the Montreal Canadiens? Okay. Maybe
Hold on. No, that's not...
carried. Maybe I'm getting carried away here a little bit. Pardon the pun. But I mean,
this video is going off the rails.
Strangely, familiar. It just seems right. Just seeing him in a suit behind the Montreal Canadiens.
It's true.
I don't know, but it's just nice to see him involved in the game all the time.
Yeah, that is. Oh my gosh, this is the most chaotic end to a video I think we've ever had. I love it. I absolutely love it. But you're right. Carey Price just knows so much. Carey Price has made a career on he's had some amazing regular seasons, but especially later in his career, his ability to step up when the pressure matters most, to read the other teams, his anticipation is what made him such a great goalie. His ability to get to the spot before the shooters. And if he can help Samuel Montembeault develop that, I think that would be amazing. Because Monty's good at it, but if he can become elite, that's just an amazing thing. I think Carey Price has so much good to share. And yeah, I know he's moved back to BC, but to have him in some kind of even a coaching consulting role with Montreal, I think it would just be amazing. But that'll do it for this crazy news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Get carried away with your support for this channel. It's been amazing. Thank you guys for all the views on the videos, for the subscriptions, everything. We really, really appreciate it. I'm Josh Gosse for my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.